Hey, thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. I'm Derek Wetmore. This is Andrew Kramer. We just got done recording an episode of the Purple Podcast, an emergency episode because of all the Vikings moves this week. So we'll recap some of that stuff that we talked about. But I would encourage you, if you enjoy any of the stuff that you find on this video, please go check out that podcast, whether it's on iTunes or on 1500ESPN.com. We broke this stuff down for how long? 45 minutes?
Something like that, yeah. Yep.
We spent a long time talking about the Vikings' moves and non-moves in free agency, including what's next and all of that stuff. But
that's about how fast the moves came, too.
That's right. Quick. And now they're here. So to recap, traded for Mike Wallace, cut Greg Jennings, signed backup quarterback Sean Hill, did not sign defensive end Michael Johnson. We still think that there's some positions of need, Andrew. But first, let's just get into their moves. Mike Wallace, what does he bring to the Vikings?
That was surprising. I was surprised to see that kind of come across, but we talked to Rick Spielman on Friday night about it, and he said that just kind of came across within Friday morning, literally less than 12 hours. They had traded for Mike Wallace after talking. It's not like they had to vet very much with that. They wanted to go get him in 2013 free agency.
That's right.
They ended up getting Greg Jennings, who they then cut a day later. So clearly they ended up swapping Wallace with Jennings, a move they wanted to do 2 years ago anyway. And I think it's a better fit for Norv Turner's offense. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing. Jarius Wright, entering his fourth year, is probably able to step into that slot role that Greg Jennings held down. You saw Jarius Wright last year, really great after the catch, short yardage guy, can take a 10-yard pass and make it 20. But with Mike Wallace, what they want with another receiver is to catch that ball 20 yards downfield, 25 yards downfield, something that Cordero Patterson struggled with last year. Right. He's not a sure thing. And while Charles Johnson did a good job last year, remember, he's still got a long ways to go. He's still not your kind of polished veteran receiver that a Mike Wallace is.
Yeah, so we talk about the verticality and stuff like that. Yeah. What elements he adds to Norv Turner's offense. We talk about that on the Purple Podcast. We talk about the salary cap implications of getting rid of Jennings, why they did that compared to maybe just keeping both players. We went into at length about that. Another interesting one, though, Andrew, is the move they didn't make, but we're certainly interested in making. Michael Johnson basically would have come in and been a starting defensive end. What does that say about Brian Robinson?
That means they're open to an upgrade. And I think Michael Johnson now, it's not like they're going looking for every possible starting defensive end out there.
Sure.
Michael Johnson was a unique situation with his history of Mike Zimmer in Cincinnati. Obviously, he wanted to come to Minnesota before he took a richer deal in Tampa Bay, wanted to be closer to home down there in Florida. But when he was now released by Tampa Bay last week, it was a situation where the Vikings, I think, saw a unique opportunity. They thought we should at least take a look at it. And they went to dinner with him Friday night. They had some serious talks, and they maybe even offered him a contract Saturday morning before he flew out. But their plan all along was to go to Cincinnati and kind of work that out and do both trips. And obviously he made that decision to stay in Cincinnati. So with Brian Robinson, 32 years old, it's a case where they need to upgrade him eventually, upgrade that left end position eventually down the road. Michael Johnson could have been that guy right now, but you're going to be paying Brian Robinson about $5 million this year to probably be your starting left end.
Yep. The guy that they paid to be their backup, no question about it, Sean Hill. Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the Vikings starting quarterback, and they brought in kind of that quintessential backup quarterback man in Sean Hill. What does he add to the Vikings offense? I know we talked at length on the podcast about it. The basic summation is that if Sean Hill's starting games for the Vikings, they're in a little bit of trouble.
He's a downgrade on the field to what Matt Castle had brought you. Now, you won't be as comfortable putting Sean Hill out there as you were with Matt Castle, but in the NFL, if your starting quarterback's out and injured, you're screwed. You can mail it in. It's just kind of how it works. You saw Green Bay when Aaron Rodgers had the broken collarbone a couple years back. That's just kind of how it goes in the NFL. So don't be shocked. I was a little shocked, though, that they went ahead and paid him $3.7 million this year. It's kind of pretty expensive for a 35-year-old backup. They only saved $1 million with moving Castle, but obviously they got a draft pick out of it too that they then sent to Miami for Mike Wallace. So it all kind of worked out in the end.
Right.
But at the same time, they do have a downgrade at quarterback there. It's not as good as an overall group as it was last year.
Sure, but a security blanket anyway. I mean, he's Sean Hill.
He's a guy who's able to step in there, throw the 8-yard passes that you need to kind of run more of a West Coast offense than Norv Turner's downfield thing. But what he has is experience in Norv Turner's offense maybe can help Teddy Bridgewater with that kind of facet where Matt Castle last year was learning the offense as well.
We also addressed just quickly here probably go get another quarterback at some point to be that third
Yeah,
guy.
and that'll be something, if it's not in 6th, 7th round of the draft, it'll be an undrafted free, your Chandler Harnish kind of guy.
Sure. So somebody like that to fill out the quarterback roster, complete the room. Positions of need, Andrew. They've still got some holes to fill. What do you think the top priorities
Yeah,
are?
they're not done spending this month. They shouldn't be anyway. If you don't go into the draft with looking for 3 or 4 starters, you need a guard. They're looking to upgrade safety. Somebody on the roster could earn both of those spots, but you still want to bring in other guys to compete for that and push them. Outside corner and middle linebacker. And obviously you need a rotational defensive end still, because your only other options are Scott Crichton and Justin Tratow, and I don't know if you're comfortable with that. So they've got pieces or holes left to fill, and they've got about $13 million in cap room to do it right now. That's without restructuring Chad Greenway yet, at least, and with Adrian Peterson on the books.
Offensive guard, probably number one priority.
I would say so. I thought they were trying to make a big move for a Clint Bowling, Orlando Franklin, Mike Iupati, somebody like that. But obviously all those guys are taken up now. And I think if they don't get somebody this month at guard, number 11 overall pick's got to be a spot you got to look at to get an offensive lineman, I think.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the free agency moves affect how they go into the draft. You remember last year around this time, we were very concerned for the Vikings for not having a big, heavy-hitting linebacker.
Yep.
Number 9, go ahead and draft Anthony Barr. So they address it in both areas.
And it's really how it works. Last year, they needed a secondary upgrade. They get Captain Munderland in free agency. They wait till 6th and 7th rounds to address the secondary. Yep. Last year, obviously, linebacker was an area they needed, including running back and other areas with losing Toby Gerhardt. So the holes they aren't filling in free agency, you can guarantee they're going to be looking in the draft.
It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Thanks for coming to the website. Do check out the Purple Podcast, 1500ESPN.com, or on iTunes. Just search Purple Podcast. Andrew and I talked for about 45 minutes breaking all this stuff down. We couldn't stop talking once we started. So that'll do it for this video. For Andrew Kramer, I'm Derek Wetmore. Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. We'll catch you next time.